As much as we try to get everything right, there's just so much that can go wrong with gardening. Luckily, we can learn from other people's errors. So join me as I discuss 5 of my biggest gardening mistakes. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and on the Gardener Scott channel I discuss everything gardening. Today, it's my own mistakes. And as you may have heard in my other videos, I've made many mistakes over the years. I always try to learn from them. Today I'm sharing 5 that have stuck with me for a long time in hopes that maybe you won't make the same mistakes, that you'll get it right the first time. This first mistake I did a number of years ago, and luckily I only did it once. At the time I thought it was a pretty good idea, and in my support it really is a good idea. I just didn't understand the potential consequences. And the idea is to plant a fish in a hole that you're going to put seeds above. And as the plant grows and the roots go down, that rotting fish is adding nutrients to the soil. It is a great idea, and there's a lot of gardeners that do this. In fact, I learned about it long ago in grade school, about the pilgrims being shown how to put fish in the hole when they planted their corn seeds. So I did it. I grew corn. And I buried fish in holes above where I was planting the corn. And at first, everything seemed to be going okay. The corn sprouted. I was happy. It was green. It was beautiful. And I thought, this fish idea is wonderful. I didn't take into account that I had a Labrador Retriever dog that also liked to come out to the garden with me. And as those of you that have labs might know, they'll eat almost anything constantly. I came out to my garden one day. Not only was all the corn dug up because my dog had gone after that fish that apparently had begun to smell through the soil, but a lot of the rest of my garden was dug up too because she was probably looking for fish in other areas. I lost much of my garden that year because of my dog, who I loved dearly, but she liked the idea of fish more than my happiness and my plants. I've used fish and fish emulsion many times since then, but only in fenced areas of my garden where my dog can't get to and dig up all of that rotting fish. The second mistake I also made a number of years ago. You may notice I've got snow around me. It's the very end of fall. I also get snow at the very end of spring. And that means our growing season can be quite short. I like to grow fruit trees, but I'm limited in my choices. Many years ago, I wanted apricots. Normally not an issue, but in my area, the late snow and the harsh spring almost always freezes the blossoms before any fruit can form. But finally, after many years, I had some fruit. I had 5 apricots developing on that tree. And so I babied the tree, I babied the fruit because I wanted those apricots. And I came out one day in summer, I tested the fruit and determined, tomorrow I'm going to harvest. I came out the next day to harvest that delicious fruit, and all 5 were gone. Every speck had been eaten by the birds because they too knew that tomorrow it was going to be perfect. Well, of course, I wasn't going to repeat that mistake again until the next year. With my grapes, I came out and determined tomorrow I'm going to harvest. Tomorrow came and half of my grapes were gone too. The birds knew that they were perfect. So ever since then, if I come out to harvest and I determine that tomorrow the fruit is going to be perfect, I go ahead and harvest today. Because for some reason with birds around, tomorrow never comes. How about you? Have you had similar experiences? Let me know in the comments below. Both of those mistakes happened before I was a trained master gardener. This third one happened after I supposedly knew what I was doing. I knew that mulch is important in a vegetable garden, and of course I was going to be using mulch. We lived at a different house, a different garden, and we had horses, which meant we had a lot of hay. For those of you that might be using the Ruth Stout method of gardening, you know that a lot of hay can be a very effective mulch for growing your plants. I didn't know about Ruth Stout in those days, but I knew that we had hay and I was going to mulch with it. Well, if you've seen some of my earlier videos talking about mulch, I'm a proponent of straw. That's what I like to use now, partly because of that mistake. Straw is harvested with primarily just the stalk portion of that grain. Hay is harvested with the top portion of the grain. It's got more nutrients and it has to feed livestock. Well, of course, the hay that I was using had that same top portion. What's in the top portion of a grain plant? Well, it's the grain. And grain is just another word for seeds. So when I mulched lightly with my hay, I was introducing a lot of hay seed to my vegetable beds. And with the winds we get in this area, a lot of that hay mulch blew into other areas, the pathways, other beds. And by the end of the year, I had hay growing everywhere. It was a pernicious weed for me. And it took me a number of years to pull a lot of those hay plants. And I don't know if I ever got them all. Since then, I do not promote the use of hay in vegetable beds when it's lightly mulched, because there's just too big of a problem with those seeds germinating and just adding to the weeding problems that we already don't like to deal with. I lived in the state of Oklahoma for a few years. It's a region of the United States that's pretty warm, and so I thought I could have success with a garden. I was still new to gardening. This is before I became a master gardener. So I cleared a plot in the backyard, put some seeds in the ground, and was waiting for my plants to grow. And many of them germinated, and they got to be about 2 inches tall. I went out to water, and they were gone. I had no idea what happened. So I put more seeds in the ground, watered, took care of them. They grew to about 2 inches tall, came out again, and they were gone. I actually did that a few more times through the growing season, trying to figure it out. Ultimately, the insects were eating these plants before they could get very tall. And the plants that the insects didn't eat, the rabbits got to. This is before I even considered the possibility of putting a fence around a garden to keep rabbits out. That entire growing season, I effectively grew nothing. A big mistake. But what I've learned since then is to take some time when you get to a new house, a new area, to look around, see what your neighbors are doing, find out about your neighborhood. If I had done that, I would have realized that none of my neighbors were growing plots where they were putting seeds in, because the insects and the rabbits ate everything. There were a couple spots well down the road where the neighbors had learned to fence the garden and deal with the insects through transplanting, and not so much starting from seed. I didn't know it at the time. I know it now. So in this new garden, I learned about the rabbits that I have and the insects in this area, and I'm already developing precautions against them. After Oklahoma, we moved here to Colorado, not this house, one I had over 20 years ago, and I was determined to get it right. And so I learned a little bit more about gardening, started attending some classes, reading books, and I knew that I could have a big garden and have all of those wonderful plants here in Colorado, even though it's hard with a short growing season. And I was determined to teach my kids about gardening and that they would come out and help, and it would be a family endeavor, our wonderful garden. So I spent a lot of time building this garden. It wasn't an ideal spot, but I did it. It was a lot of space, and I started a lot of plants that first year. And when I went to get the kids involved, they had many other interests. It wasn't helping good old Dad in the garden. Sure, they helped me a little bit with some of the building, and they helped me a little bit if I really begged and pleaded with them, but they were busy with school and extracurricular activities and sports. And even when I wanted their help, sometimes they just weren't even there to give me the help that I needed. That first big garden turned out okay, but it was just too much for me to handle by myself at that time. And the weeds overtook some areas, and some of the plants suffered. I had some good harvests. I did have some good success, and I learned a lot. And the biggest lesson was don't build a big garden anticipating that you're going to have help. Just assume that help isn't going to be there. So only build a garden big enough for you. If you have help, great. It makes everything easier. But just don't count on it. It can be very discouraging. How about you? Did this jog your memory of maybe mistakes that you've made that you'd like to share with the rest of us? Just let us all know in the comments below, because we can all learn from not just my mistakes, but others as well. If you like this video, be sure to click on that thumbs up button below. If you want to see more gardening videos, subscribe to the GardenerScott channel, and be sure to click on the bell so you know when new videos are coming out, and new videos are coming out every week. I'm GardenerScott. Enjoy gardening.